The 11th of November, 1918. After more than 4 years of brutal conflict, the guns of the First World War finally fall silent. The German Empire collapses, the Kaiser abdicates, and the Weimar Republic is proclaimed, inheriting a nation humiliated by defeat and burdened with the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Across Germany, political unrest, economic hardship, and social turmoil create fertile ground for both violent crime and political extremism. Cities like Düsseldorf struggle with rising unemployment, housing shortages, and an underfunded police force, leaving their streets increasingly unsafe. While Germany tries to rebuild from the ashes of war, in the shadows, a predator and sexual deviant begins to stalk his unsuspecting victims. His sadistic attacks shock the city and earn him one of the most infamous nicknames in German criminal history, the Vampire of Düsseldorf. His name is Peter Kürten. Peter Kürten was born on the 26th of May, 1883 in the town of Mülheim am Rhein, then part of the German Empire. He was the eldest of 13 children in a deeply impoverished and abusive household. His father, a heavy drinker, was violent towards both his wife and children. This environment of constant fear, humiliation, and degradation left lasting psychological scars on the young boy. From an early age, Kürten displayed troubling behavior, and by his teenage years, he turned to petty theft, falling in with older boys who taught him burglary and street survival. At the age of 14, Kürten ran away from home and relocated to the city of Koblenz. There, he began a brief relationship with a prostitute 2 years his senior. In 1904, Kürten was drafted into the Imperial German Army. However, he soon deserted as the military life soon clashed with his undisciplined and defiant personality. As a result, Kürten was tried by the military court and convicted of desertion, in addition to multiple counts of arson, robbery, and attempted robbery, and was subsequently imprisoned from 1905 to 1913. Upon his release, Kürten's crimes escalated from theft to physical violence. In May 1913, he committed his first known murder when he killed Christine Klein. He broke into the Klein family's home in Cologne, intending to steal, but instead encountered the 9-year-old Christina asleep in her bed and strangled her. The same year, Kürten attempted to strangle a 17-year-old girl, Gertrud Franken from Düsseldorf. The girl eventually survived the attack, but was left traumatized. The First World War began on the 28th of July, 1914, drawing the great powers of Europe into a 4-year bloodbath. At the outbreak of the war, Kürten was in prison, serving time for a series of arson attacks and burglaries. He remained incarcerated for most of the war, avoiding military service entirely. His time behind bars hardened his personality. When he was released in 1921, Germany was a different country. The war had ended in defeat, the monarchy was gone, and the Weimar Republic was struggling to maintain stability. Inflation, poverty, and political unrest created an atmosphere of uncertainty in which law enforcement struggled to keep order. In 1923, Kürten married Augusta Scharf, a former prostitute who had served a prison sentence for shooting and killing her fiancé. The marriage gave Kürten a veneer of respectability, which he used to conceal his ongoing criminal activity. For the first time in his life, Kürten obtained regular employment, also becoming an active trades union official, although, with the exception of his wife, he formed no close friendships. In 1925, he returned with his wife to Düsseldorf, where he soon began affairs with a servant girl, Tida, and a housemaid named Mech. By 1929, Kürten's compulsions had reached a breaking point. That year marked the beginning of a long wave of assaults and murders in Düsseldorf, followed by additional attacks in early 1930 that kept the city on edge. Kürten's first known murder in this spree occurred on the 8th of February 1929. The victim was Rosa Oehliger, just a 9-year-old girl. Kürten first strangled her into unconsciousness, then murdered her with a pair of scissors, and eventually set her body on fire. 5 days later, Kürten murdered a 45-year-old mechanic, Rudolf Scheer. The similarities between the two attacks convinced investigators that the same offender was at work. In August of the same year, Kürten strangled and repeatedly stabbed the 21-year-old Maria Hahn. Her remains were located several months later after authorities received an anonymous letter and a hand-drawn map that indicated the burial site. Maria Hahn was also raped by Kürten. Later that same month, he carried out 3 separate street stabbings on a single night, leaving an 18-year-old girl, a 30-year-old man, and a 37-year-old woman seriously injured. A few days later, at a fairground in Düsseldorf, he followed 2 foster sisters as they walked home. He first murdered the younger sister, Gertrud Hammacher, before stabbing and killing the older one, Luisa. Neither girl had been sexually assaulted. The following day, Kürten approached a 27-year-old housemaid, Gertrude Schulte, whom he had openly asked to engage in sex with him. Upon being rebuffed, Kürten shouted, "Well, die then," before repeatedly stabbing the woman. Schulte survived her injuries, although she was unable to provide investigators with a clear description of her assailant, beyond assuming his age to be around 40. In October 1929, Kürten attacked a 22-year-old servant girl named Elisabeth Dörrier, striking her across the right temple with a hammer. He then struck her repeatedly about the head and both temples, leaving her for dead. Dörrier was found in a coma at 6:30 a.m. the next morning and died from her injuries the following day. Peter Kürten also raped her. The following month, he murdered Gertrud Albermann, just a 5-year-old child. Kürten persuaded her to accompany him to a section of deserted allotments, where he strangled and murdered Gertrude. By this time, the murders committed by the individual the press had dubbed the Vampire of Düsseldorf were receiving considerable national and international attention. Due to the sheer savagery of the murders, the diverse backgrounds of the victims, and the different methods in which they had been assaulted or murdered, both the police and the press theorized the spate of assaults and murders were the work of more than one perpetrator. Kürten's last victim was Maria Budlichova, a Czech woman who arrived in Düsseldorf in May 1930 seeking work. At the railway station, a homeless man harassed her, but a well-dressed stranger, none other than Peter Kürten, drove him away and offered to help. He invited her to his home in Mettmanner Strasse to eat and drink. There, Budlichova stated that she was uninterested in engaging in sex with him. Kürten calmly agreed and offered to lead her to a hotel. Instead, he lured her to a wooded area and tried to strangle her. Budlichova escaped and later described the attack in a misaddressed letter. Discovered by a postal clerk, the letter reached the police, who, with her help, traced Kürten to his home on Mettmanner Strasse. When police searched his home, Kürten quietly slipped away. Realizing that the authorities now knew who he was, he confessed to his wife that he had attacked Budlichova and feared that his criminal past could mean 15 years of penal labor. With her agreement, Kürten went into hiding and did not return home until the 23rd of May. That night, he told her the full truth. He was the Vampire of Düsseldorf, and he urged her to claim the substantial reward for his capture. The next day, Kürten's wife, who had no idea he was a murderer, reported him to the police, leading to his capture near St. Rochus Church. In custody, he freely confessed to the Düsseldorf murders and much more. Kürten admitted to a total of 68 crimes, including 9 murders and 31 attempted murders. He spoke openly of his crimes and described in detail how he sometimes drank blood from his victims. Psychiatrists concluded he was not insane, but fully aware and in control of his actions. Kürten's trial began on the 13th of April, 1931, where he faced 9 counts of murder and 7 of attempted murder. At first, he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, sitting inside a specially built iron cage to protect him from the furious relatives of the victims. Days into the trial, Kürten changed his plea to guilty, showing no remorse. He claimed his only concern was securing the reward money for his wife. Expert witnesses dismantled his insanity defense, testifying that his crimes were driven by sadistic pleasure and calculated cruelty. After just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury found him guilty on all counts. On the 22nd of April, Kürten was sentenced to death. He did not appeal, though he requested to write farewell letters to his wife and victims' families, which was granted. On the evening of the 1st of July, 1931, Kürten received his last meal. He ordered Wiener Schnitzel, a bottle of white wine, and fried potatoes. Kürten ate the entire meal before requesting a second helping. The prison staff decided to grant his request. At dawn, on the 2nd of July, 1931, the 48-year-old Peter Kürten walked to the Guillotine in Cologne's Klingelputz prison. Moments before his beheading, he turned to the prison psychiatrist and asked, "Tell me, after my head is chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck?" When asked for final words, Kürten simply smiled and replied, "No." Following his execution, Kürten's head was bisected and mummified. The brain was removed and subjected to forensic analysis in an attempt to explain his personality and behavior. The examinations of Kürten's brain and body revealed that aside from his having an enlarged thymus gland, he had not been suffering any physical abnormality.
Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.